Today we're going to take a look at James Conner, Kyren Williams, and Chuba Hubbard and what to do with them in Dynasty Fantasy Football. We're going to look at the trade market. We're going to look at their values. We're going to look at their contracts, the advanced analytics, and everything else so we can strategize around these players. Buy, sell, hold, trade, whatever you want to do, whatever you need to do in your league, because it's always subjective when you're looking at players. It's always not one for one, but what could possibly happen. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're going deep on Dynasty. We're looking at the market. We're looking at rookie drafts. We're looking at rookie values. We're helping you set your lineups and everything else. Click that button right now. Stop missing out. Rick Blair's watching. We're starting off with Kyren Williams. There's a lot of upside with Kyren Williams because he never leaves the field. He gets a lot of volume. He's also racking up touchdowns, yards on the consistent, which is something you like about him for fantasy football. He's good in the receiving game. He's getting that work. Kyren Williams has proven to be a mainstay in fantasy football, and it looks like it's going to be for a good bit. It looks like it's going to be for quite some time. You're looking at the stock market for Kyren Williams and Dynasty Fantasy Football on KeepTradeCut.com. And you do not want to look at this as a one-for-one scenario. This is where people get twisted with the tool. You kind of want to look at this as market sentiment, maybe league to league or a basket of leagues, how people would look at Kyren Williams. But they got him valued as RB6. So that tells me that people are feeling pretty good about Kyren Williams, especially for the long term. They got him ranked in the top 10 among running backs. Whether you have that or not, that's up to you. But Kyren Williams is up there in terms of market sentiment in a basket of Dynasty leagues. So there are a lot of gamers that are interested in Kyren Williams because he's getting a lot of touches, he's getting a lot of opportunities. Sean McVay loves him. He's Sean McVay's boy. He's going to be with the Rams for a bit. They're going to give him that money. They're going to back the Brinks truck up to him. Whenever Sean McVay talks about Kyren Williams, they talk about him glowingly. Punt returns, doesn't matter. They'll give him all the work. They'll let him work the spreadsheets in the weekend. They'll do that. Kyren Williams is going to get the work. You look at adjacent values here. Of course, you like Breece Hall better. Of course, you like Saquon better. Devin Achane, Kyren Williams. I like Achane for the long term. Younger running back, a lot of upside there. Kenneth Walker is a better prospect. Jonathan Taylor's older, injury history. Kyren Williams does have an injury history. Pick your poison there. Christian McCaffrey sneaking back up into the top 10. He's starting to rise the ranks. However, things get very interesting when you look at the wide receivers. Brian Thomas Jr., he's going to be in the NFL for a good bit. Brock Purdy, Drake May. QBs there and 2 QB. Kenneth Walker, Trey McBride. So you got some wide receivers to look at. I think Kyren Williams versus wide receivers here, the young guys who are doing something on the field, is something you want to note. Kyren Williams versus the running back you like. It is what it is. It's the running back position. It's up and down. I think the one thing you say about Kyren Williams, he's pretty safe week to week. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get about 80% of the snap share. You're going to get a lot of the touches. You're going to get a lot of workload, volume into fantasy production, or just straight hitting with touchdowns and breaking off runs. And we're seeing that this year, 17.4 PPR points per game. He's a good RB2, back in RB1 type of deal. We got 4 RB1 weeks on the season. But on top of that, we got some RB2 weeks. Points per game, he's up there. But when you look at it week to week here, good RB1, RB2 guy. A good RB1, RB2 guy. That's what the chart's saying. That's what's that saying. We got a 31.6, so we got upside. And our downside's pretty good. You're getting double-digit PPR fantasy points. Week 11, not so much, but mostly double-digit PPR fantasy points. A good level flat line there. That's what you're getting from Kyren Williams. And the volume, week to week, you're getting RB2 production steady. You got 4 RB2 games, 4 RB1 games, and 2 RB3 weeks. So you're looking solid there. You're very steady. That's what I mean by a split between RB1 and RB2. It's half and half there. And that's what you're seeing. You're voluming into fantasy production. It's safe. You know what you're going to get. You feel warm and cozy inside when you're starting Kyren Williams. You know you're at least getting a 10.5 with the potential to get 20 plus. You hit 20 plus 3 weeks this season. So you do have that upside, and you do have the safety net there with the volume. You are getting a lot of touches, though. 57.5 snaps per game. We're leading all running backs there. We're leading all running backs right now in opportunity share. We're running a lot of routes. We're getting a lot of pass blocking snaps. We're getting a lot of volume on our body here. We're getting about a season and a half worth of work here in 2024. And then we'll probably get that in 2025, at least to start things off unless something happens. We're going to get a lot of work. I would not be surprised after we get that next contract. Kyren Williams, you're looking at him, and it's starting to tail off. I would not be surprised 2026 or so. You're wondering what's happening. Then Blake Corum might step up then. That's something you may want to look at because, honestly, those touches will be baked into 2025. 2025 amount of touches is kind of baked in right now because you're getting like a season and a half worth of work when you're looking at that. But we are getting a lot of volume. You got to love that for fantasy. You know they're not going to just take him off the field. They're not going to fuck with him until something fucks with him. That being said, you know he's going to get work. You know he's going to get opportunity. You may want to pay for that because you know in 2025 he's going to come out like this right out of the gate, getting to work. Blake Corum's not going to zap in there. They're going to shoot Blake Corum off the field. We already see that. We see that with Kyren Williams. We know they love Kyren Williams, and we know a second contract's probably going to end up coming here. We know that's probably going to come up sooner than later. That might be in the offseason. They may try to get that deal done before the 2025 season. That's something you may want to look at. They do not want Kyren Williams to stall out on them in the offseason. Look for him to get signed. Look for those touches to set in, though, on him, though. However, I feel warm and cozy, though, going into 2025. And this is a redraft game with running backs. I'm not looking into 2026 with running backs. I'm just not doing that. 2026, 2027, I'll think that way towards wide receivers, but only the ones I want to think that way with, the top tier wide receivers. That being said, when I look at the values right now, 2024, 2025, maybe 2026, when I look at the production, injuries happen with running backs. Running backs are treated up and down when it comes to value in Dynasty Fantasy Football. They're not for long, even though they can give you for long production. I'm fine with you having Kyren Williams and paying up for him if you want. He's cozy. He's nice. He's safe week to week. You know what you're going to get. The inevitable will happen, but that could be out in the future. That could be a devastating injury. You are getting more touches and more opportunities. Just more time out there is a thing that could happen to you, but still, that's also a value to you because you're getting the production from that. 2024, 2025, you're looking golden, and you're looking at the backfield here. We got Blake Corum waiting in the wings as the insurance policy. If I got Kyren Williams, you can get Blake Corum. He's very cheap. He's very palatable to get right now in fantasy football because Kyren Williams is getting so many touches. If I'm holding Kyren Williams, if I got Kyren Williams, I'm just going to try and make that play for Blake Corum. You could say you could sell in the high, which you could. You could. That is a play you could do. You can sell the high RB6 value. He's up there. His value's up there compared to a few months ago. It could revert back in the offseason to where it was due to people looking back at his age, looking back at the touches. People start looking at my old videos and say, oh man, this guy's getting almost 60 snaps a game, getting all this work. Season and a half worth of work. That being said, you might want to sell in the high. That is a potential for you, and you can probably get something good back at you. A good pick, a good wide receiver. If you're building around wide receivers or you're trying to stack up a wide receiver and you're coming up with running backs throughout your rookie drafts, you're kind of deep at running back, that is something you could do. That is something to look at. He is technically a sell, but he's also technically to keep and just enjoy the production because of the running back position. If I have Kyren Williams and I decide to keep him, my move would be to get Blake Corum and just wrap this up. Just put a bow on it, wrap it up. If I'm not in it to win it right now or next year, and I feel like I'm going to be a couple years out, and I got Kyren Williams, this is a good chip to help you recycle and to get more upside chips, more draft picks, young capital for the future that could help you out. More than likely, you're not in that situation. More likely, you already made that move, but that's something to entertain if you're rebuilding. Chuba Hubbard has been exhilarating this year. Very productive. There's nothing really negative you can say about Chuba Hubbard, and we're going to go over some stuff. When I was putting this together, that's very good. Very good about his prospect profile and his value for Dynasty Fantasy Football. His stock is climbing, but it's at RB22. Market sentiment is saying, hey, we like Chuba Hubbard, but we're too scared to buy in right now all the way. We'll dip our toes in, but we're too scared to buy in all the way. So compared to Kyren Williams, if you're looking for a running back that's a little bit safe going into next year, that's going to be productive for you, and all things aside with the running backs, they're not getting injured much this year. It could revert back to the mean. We could have more injuries next year. Chuba Hubbard at a value here, at a discount, compared to what you're getting with Kyren Williams. He's not scoring much less than he is per game. That's something you may want to entertain at value. That's a good value compared to that. Adjacent players, Bucky Irvin, Jonathan Brooks, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins. And I think you can say the same thing with Kyren Williams. If you got Chuba, you want Jonathan Brooks, you kind of just want them together. It's going to be harder. A lot of people are diamond fisting Brooks right now, as they should, because of the talent. You're looking at all the adjacent players, a late first for him. That's a good price tag if you're looking to get out. If you're looking to get out of Chuba Hubbard right now, if you're looking to get a wide receiver somewhere around that value, a late first in this year's draft in 2025, you're looking at another good running back, another good wide receiver. But you're going to have another couple years of Chuba Hubbard. You're going to have another couple years of him getting touches and value in this offense. The offensive line's looking better. They're building around him. They want to use 2 running backs. Jonathan Brooks ain't going to steal all the touches. It's going to be a good split. He's very safe with that. And you're just looking at the workload here. And you're looking at what he's done this season. 5 RB1 weeks on the year. 3 RB3 weeks. He's going to give you a baseline of 10 fantasy points per game at the bottom. His low is going to be pretty low. His upside, he's got you 4 games of 20 points or more. And we were very steady down the stretch last year in 2023. Chuba Hubbard's very safe, and the value. We got that contract. We're going to be on the team for a bit, and we're very safe in this offense. This offense can't get much worse, and look at what we're doing here. Jonathan Brooks can tap into some of the workload, but honestly, it'll be a good meat shield for him because that'll allow him to stay upright. 12.9 PPR fantasy points over the last 2 years in this bad offense. That's pretty good, and you're just looking at the work rate. Miles Sanders is not for long. Miles Sanders ain't going to be here forever. Jonathan Brooks is going to take that workload, and you're looking at the opportunity share at 12%. That could increase. They're probably just going to use the running backs more. You're probably going to see Chuba Hubbard around the same, and you're probably just going to see more workload at the running back position. That workload that's extra going to Jonathan Brooks. That's probably what you're going to see. They're not outstanding anywhere else. You got some young prospects, but Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard, that's a good 1-2 punch. I'm not scared of either running back in this offense for the other running back. I'm just not. I think you got some talented running backs back here, and that could switch over this team to being better than expected in 2025. If Jonathan Brooks hits, that could potentially happen. And you're looking at the contract here. We got a potential out at the end of 2025. If he's still cooking, they're going to hold on to him a little bit. The potential out could be more towards 2027 too, if he doesn't get hit with injuries and if he's holding up. I see them using a good meat shield with Miles Sanders, allowing Chuba Hubbard to hold strong. He's not getting a huge opportunity share. I look for him to hold strong longer than expected, too. I look for that to happen because they're not ragdolling him with touches. Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard, that's going to be the show going forward. Miles Sanders is not going to be for long. He's averaging 3.7 yards per carry. He was averaging about 12 routes per game. So, on the short end of the stick, at the end of the season, Jonathan Brooks takes Miles Sanders' job. Expect Jonathan Brooks to get like 12 routes per game, 12 to 15 maybe even. Maybe something like that. That's enough to get you on the back end of the season. Chuba Hubbard, I like him a lot for Dynasty at the price tag. I like what you're getting. He's a good stable running back to pair with young running backs too on your roster. I think he's a good clip. James Conner, the crafty vet here. He's a good running back. He's like the Nate Diaz of running backs. He's older, but yet you put him out there and he just gets the job. Win, lose, draw. You're coming back happy. He's the Nate Diaz of running backs. He's just older. He can take the hits. He's wiry. It's James Conner. He's the Nate Diaz of running backs. He is the Nate Diaz. That is this comp. RB28. And that is fair. That is fair because you're getting production right now. And I'll tell you this. Selling James Conner in Dynasty Fantasy Football is about impossible over these last few years. So anybody saying he's a sell because of this or that just hasn't been trying to deal him or mess around with the market. you're pretty much selling pennies on the dollar when compared to the production. So you have them, you're probably locked in with them. But if you're looking to get out in season right now, that's about the time you got to sell him to a contender. If I'm not making the playoffs, he has to be gone. He has to be gone. If I'm not making the playoffs, and I wasn't close to making the playoffs this year, he has to be gone. I have to get rid of him and sell him to a playoff team. And if I can sneak away with something good due to that, a back in first, a second, like holding somebody over the barrel, and I can do that, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. That will be your last shot, maybe. That might be the last shot. Because if I'm not making the playoffs next year at this age, what's the point? Give them to somebody else, get something to help rebuild with. If I'm winning, of course, I'm going to enjoy the production while I got it. You're looking at him versus some of the other running backs. Rashad White's an interesting get, but things are getting interesting in Tampa Bay for the long term. Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Benson, Braylon Allen. You got the young running backs there if you want to pivot to that. If you want to, that's something you could do. If you want to make that swap right now before they start hitting. Cedric Tillman, Darnell Mooney, Michael Pittman, a basket of wide receivers that could give you some production. If you're winning, you know what you're doing. You're going to try and get that money with James Conner. That's what you're doing right now. If you're not winning at this time, you just got to kick the tires, see what comes back at you, because the market for James Conner has been dead for so long, a couple years. It's been dead for about 2 years now with James Conner, so he's not very fluid in the market. I know the values are here, but some people may not just move with that. You might have to sell pennies on the dollar. You might get more selling to a contender, though. More than the early second for 2026, as people are fighting for that money. And you want to hold people over a barrel for that money. That's why a lot of people do not play in Dynasty Leagues without trade deadlines, so they can rebuild at a faster rate. They're going to hold those contenders over for a barrel so they can get better draft picks for these players. That being said, James Conner, 15.2 fantasy points per game, 3 RB1 weeks, and that's important because that lets you know the upside of this player. 1 game of over 20 fantasy points. So what a lot of people will do is look at the points per game saying, that's it, he's an RB1. You also want to look at how the points are being scored per week. You want to see the RB2 games, the RB3 games, who are they against, how high is the upside of these games, so we don't have a 30-point game, we have 1 20-point game. Our low end's not too bad. We're not busting on many weeks. We have 2 RB3 weeks, 1 at 3.5, 1 for 8.6. We've been healthy, we've been good. We've came out here and there. One, we had to tape up an ankle and come back in after a series or two. He came back in looking good, but he's been rolling. He's been rolling. He's a sell if you have to sell. If you're a rebuilding team, you have to do it. If you're contending for money, you're good. You're good with this. You're looking at this and you're rolling with it. And you're looking at James Conner. We're getting the work. We're getting the touches. A 34% opportunity share. They're starting to use Trey Benson a little bit more. They need to use a meat shield with him to get deeper into the season, to get that going. They need to start doing that. James Conner's a running back to look at. You're looking at the contract, though. We got an out after 2024. So you're watching every carry, everything after 2024, because this offseason we're going to be a free agent. If we take a hit, if we miss a couple games, that could be donezo with the Cardinals. This is an advantageous situation for James Conner because of what they got. That could happen. What if that does happen, we hit the market? Where do you think he's going to end up going? Maybe back home with the Steelers at a reduced rate. Maybe that could potentially happen. He is like a Steeler-type running back. That is highly in the cards, and that's galaxy braining, but that could potentially happen. So it's not like he'll be dead in fantasy. He'll probably go somewhere and get opportunity, but it's something to pay attention to with this contract. It makes him a hot potato right now. That doesn't mean you got to sell. You got to enjoy the production and get the money now. But if you're not there to win money right now, you better kick the tires, see what comes back at you. See what happens. Here in the next couple weeks, we're going to be rolling into the playoffs. You don't have a deadline. Try and get as much as you can and hold over a barrel with James Conner. If you're out of it and you know your prospectus for 2025 isn't great for the fantasy playoffs too, you're rebuilding. It is what it is. You should already know that going in. But James Conner has been a hard player to trade over these last few years. A guy to look at, and you're looking at Trey Benson behind him. He's got a lot of upside. They spent good draft capital on him. They're giving him the ball. Amari Demercado has been making a case too. They may decide to roll with both those running backs. James Conner is good, though. He's a good, solid running back. He can hold it down for a long time, too. But there is hot potato to play in the Dynasty streets. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.